Women Photographers International Archive, or WOPHA, was co-founded by art historian Aldeide Delgado and visual artist Francisco Maso to research, promote, support, and educate on the contributions of women and non-binary photographers to modern and contemporary art. WOPHA celebrates and expands the visibility of women photographers, both here in Miami and around the world. I am honored to have been invited to host this inaugural film series as part of Give Miami Day, our city's largest annual online giving event. As an artist, communicator, and advocate for creative visibility in Miami's cultural landscape, supporting WOPHA feels deeply personal. This organization represents the power of community, the importance of visibility, and the transformative potential of photography. Today's conversations are more than interviews. They are actually encounters. Each dialogue opens a window into the passion, resilience, and vision that drive the women and allies who are helping us make Miami a meeting place for the international photography community. Join us as we listen, reflect, and celebrate their stories, told in their own voices. I am your host, Leslie Gabaldón. To me, Dr. Damian isn't just a pillar of Miami's arts community. She's a tireless champion for women artists. Over the years, she has deliberately spotlighted underrepresented voices, particularly Latin American women and Cuban exile artists. Her scholarship and curatorial work have opened doors to countless creators and ensure their stories are part of our cultural narrative. Today, she chairs the Miami-Dade County Art in Public Places Trust and brings decades of experience as a professor and former director of the Patricia and Philip Frost Art Museum at FIU. The commitment to elevating women aligns perfectly with WOPHA's mission to document and promote women and non-binary photographers. Carol, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be part of this discussion because, as you said, this is what I do.
Awesome. So it's perfectly aligned. Carol, you have witnessed a remarkable change in the Miami art scene over the years. I would love to start there. What were the days back then when you started, and what led the path for you as an art historian and curator?
Good question. Long answer.
Good. Awesome. Let's get this rolling.
I came here in the 60s, right after graduating from college. My husband was from Miami. I'm from New England. And I met him in Boston and Cambridge. And I came to Miami. And after growing up in New York City and Boston, I don't have to tell you that it was culture shock.
Yes. Actually, Boston was my first port of arrival from Venezuela, so I understand.
Yeah, so going from New England and the great cities of Boston and New York and coming to Miami that had nothing culturally. I mean, it was really quiet.
Let's call it quiet.
Let's call it quiet. I'm being polite here.
Yes.
I'm being polite.
We have to be kind.
You have to be kind.
I have to be kind to my
It was very quiet, and I looked for bookstores, I looked for movie theaters, restaurants, and I missed the bookstores, I missed the restaurants, the movie theaters, the cultural scenes that I had grown up with. So I graduated from college as an art history major.
Here or
In
Boston?
In Boston.
Okay.
And so I came here, and of course, there were no cultural institutions for me to pursue a job.
To get a job.
I couldn't get a job. And through a friend of my husband's who worked in the design district, he was able, and this is funny, and I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No,
But it was funny.
Yeah,
It's an anecdote. And that is he managed to get me a job at Jordan Marsh down here on Biscayne Boulevard near the Omni.
What was Jordan Marsh?
It was a big department store like Burdines, Macy's, and it was the anchor store, the big store here at what is now Omni.
Okay.
And he got me this job because he knew as an art major, I had had a lot of experience with drawing, graphic drawing, architectural drawing. Because back then, if you majored in art history, you had to learn all the different techniques.
Oh, you did?
I had to learn
That's
printmaking and drawing and sculpture, and I built balsa wood architectural plans, paint, everything. It was just part of the whole educational process. So he knew that I had experience with architectural drawing and said, I'm going to get you this job at Jordan Marsh in the design area,
Doing what?
and you can help draw for people who want to furnish a house or furnish a room.
Oh.
And this is before computers, remember? So I would, put a sofa here and a window treatment here and a rug here. And I did that for maybe 6 months,
Okay.
and I did not like it.
Of course. Of course.
I
cannot
did not
picture
like
you
it.
working.
No,
Oh, yeah. That would be more the sofa. Though.
No, and I didn't like people telling me that to match the sofa. Like
We don't like that.
I don't like matching the sofa.
No.
So one day and every day at lunchtime, I would walk along the bay down by 15th, 16th, 17th Street. And at that time, there were still a lot of big, beautiful homes along the bay where the park is now. And one day I was walking along the bay and I saw this sign, Miami Museum of Modern Art, in this old house. And I thought, really? Never had heard of it. Nobody knew what it was. And so one day I just said, I'm going to knock on the door. So I knocked on the door and I said, what is this? This is the private collection of a man named Bernard Davis. And old history Miamians, they know this story. They know Bernard Davis. This was in the 60s.
Oh my
So
God.
Bernard Davis had an extraordinary collection. He came from Philadelphia, a major collector and philanthropist, and he put his work in this house. And he also supported local artists. He'd do little catalogs for them and have openings, and it was very low key.
Okay, so wait. There was a community of artists.
Very small, but there was.
There was a community of artists.
Coconut Grove was one of the communities, and many of the artists that Bernard supported were Coconut Grove artists. So that was my first introduction to many artists, most of whom were women.
Oh, really?
Most of whom were women. And I admired that he and his wife supported these local women artists. They gave him a little catalog, a party, an exhibit. And so when, after I knocked on the door and I found out what he was doing, I said to him, there was some young guy sitting at the front desk, a relative, I think, who didn't know anything about art. He was just sitting there.
He was just helping.
He was helping. And I said to him, I want to meet Bernard Davis. And he said, oh, okay, can you go back tomorrow? He'll be here. And he said, why? I said, because he needs me. I honestly said that.
I love it.
I honestly said it.
Good. Good for you,
because nobody there knew what they were doing.
And you were a little greasy. I was a
21-year-old kid
that says, this guy needs me.
Right.
He doesn't know, but
he needs me. So I met him the next day and I told him that I had an undergraduate degree in art history, that I was looking for a job, and that I thought that I could really be a help. I could write for the catalogs. I could do research. I could help hang the exhibits. And he said, fine, you're hired.
Okay.
So the next day I quit Jordan Marsh, walked down the street and went into this Miami Museum of Modern Art, where I stayed for a couple of years. I even was pregnant and brought my baby there, my first child. And then when I was pregnant again, it just got to be too difficult with 2 babies and stairways at this house and all. So I had to leave that job. And when I left, I said to Bernard, what am I going to do now?
You asked him.
I asked him, and he said, go back to school.
Oh.
Go back to school,
Okay.
get some advanced degrees, and then other doors will open up for you.
And the children will eventually
And the
grow.
children will
Go
grow.
to school.
So when I got to, I guess I got to the point where my children were in school, first, second grade. And I went to the University of Miami and I said, I want to get a master's degree in art history. Fine. But I want to do the master's degree in pre-Columbian art.
Okay.
How did I get there? Right?
Yes, I was going to ask you.
How did I get to
pre-Columbian?
And I got there because my neighbors in Coral Gables were from all over the Americas. They were from Panama, they were from Chile, Peru, the Dominican Republic, and they all had beautiful art collections.
Oh, really? This is in Coconut Grove?
In Coral Gables.
Oh, in Coral Gables. Okay.
So I would go into their homes and I would see these objects, and I didn't know what I was looking at because my art history education really stopped at Washington, D.C.
Oh.
We didn't learn anything south of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And so South America, Central America was totally foreign to me. And I'd go into their homes and I'd say, what is this?
Yeah.
Paintings that were so extraordinary, gold paintings and
For
and
example,
objects.
can you name one in particular that
Yes.
sparked your interest for Latin American art?
Absolutely. One of the first paintings that I saw was a Virgin Mary from Cusco, Peru.
Oh, wow.
All the beautiful stenciling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw a lot of objects from Peru as well. I was really fascinated by Peru and by the Andes. So when I went to the University of Miami and I said I want a degree in pre-Columbian art, they looked at me like I was from Mars because nobody even taught it. Nobody knew anything about it. It did not exist. It did not exist. Absolutely didn't exist. And so I said, well, I really want to get this degree. How can I do this? So we'll go over to the anthropology department.
Okay.
Anthropology and archaeology, and talk to the professors there and see if there's somebody there who will mentor you.
Kind of like it's independent study.
Yeah, independent study. And that there was somebody in the art department, a professor in the art department, who taught non-Western art.
That's how it was called?
That's what it was called.
That's a strong one.
Non-Western art. And she taught in this one course, 2 semesters, Africa, Oceania, Latin America.
Good. Jesus.
At least. And I mean, a little bit of Maya, a little bit of Aztec, a little bit of American Indian. That was the course.
That is fascinating.
Under that umbrella.
Under that. But you had to actually do your own archaeological work in order to get there.
Yes. I had to do that. I had to find somebody which I did. I found somebody who was a political scientist from Peru. And so he was able to kind of guide me a little bit as to what I had to do. And I made my own program. Got my master's in an area of Peru called Paracas, where they do the most beautiful textiles. That's where my interest in textiles come from. Which is a sort of a subset of what I do.
Well, you see, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Carol, but you're reminding me of my previous conversation with Kimberly Green, in which she said that action is one of the most important things in life. And this is an incredible example of somebody taking action in order to make something happen that didn't exist.
Didn't exist.
The program didn't exist. The opportunity was not there. And you basically
created it
as a woman and as a art history person, created this program for you.
Yes.
And you had to do it as an educator.
Exactly. And so there was a lot of archaeology, a lot of anthropology, history. So I got my master's degree and I went to Peru and I studied this area in the deserts of Peru called Paracas. And I learned about the most extraordinary textiles. Some of the most extraordinary textiles in the world are from Paracas. So that sparked my interest in textiles. And also, I was studying the textiles, not technically, although you had to do that too.
Yeah.
But I was studying it for the iconography. What were all these little creatures?
Oh, yeah.
Who are they? And the symbols, etc. So that was where the art history came in. So I finished that, and I still didn't get a job.
Okay. But you were
I was, I was being educated. And so the next thing I did was go back to the University of Miami and say, I wanted a PhD. I wanted to get a doctorate because I realized I wasn't going to get a job in any academic or high level institution without the academic credentials. And the master's is just a step, but it isn't a doctorate.
but by this moment, was there any additional art institution in Miami, or was it still the same?
It was still pretty much the same.
The
The
same.
Center for the Fine Arts
Mm-hmm.
was here, and there was
And we're talking about what year is this?
70.
In the 70s? Okay.
Um,
So you still didn't have a place to work?
no, they didn't have a place to work. And then there were small. There was something called the Metropolitan Museum that was at the Biltmore Hotel, which was a group of really collectors who wanted to start an art movement here in
Okay.
Miami. So that was there. When I went to, and the Low Art Museum was there. So when I went back to the University of Miami after a couple of years, I said, I want to get a PhD. And it was the same story. Well, we don't have a PhD in Latin American studies. We don't have a PhD in art history.
And nobody else is
And nobody wants it. Also, the university is very expensive, as you know. And my husband was very supportive.
very good.
But when it came to the PhD, he said, that's really a lot of money, and you don't have a program.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like
What is the purpose?
what is the purpose of doing this? So I went back to the art history department and I said, look, you let me invent my first degree, and which I'm enjoying. Not very lucrative. I didn't get a job, but I want to pursue a PhD. And they said, well, it's the same story. You're really going to have to kind of make it up yourself and go to the archaeologists, go to the historians, and see what you can do. And I said, okay, but it's very expensive to do this. Is there kind of a grant or a fellowship? And they said, you write the courses. You teach the courses. You invent the program, and we'll give it to you for free.
Okay.
So that was the fellowship from the University of Miami that supported my research.
Awesome.
All I had to do
Yeah,
was
all you have to
teach 2 courses a semester
Uh-huh.
on that subject. It also took me from pre-Columbian art, which was my specialty, through the colonial period, because I was very interested in that. I did a lot of work in Cusco. And then it opened the doors to contemporary Latin American art.
Carol, now that you mentioned that, I have written in my notes a question that I really wanted to ask you, and it's, what first drew you to women's art and as a field of focus and advocacy? Because you had been an advocate.
Right. Well, it started with teaching. As I said, I sort of invented all these courses. Nobody taught them before. And after teaching the art of Latin America and the Caribbean at FIU for a number of years, one day I thought, you know what? There's an area in Latin American art that's neglected, and that is the role of women. Not only as artists, but there are so many women in the Americas who were really important. They started the São Paulo Bienal. They created wonderful programs, and they really were instrumental in establishing the basics for so many of the movements that we know of in Latin America, and nobody knows that.
Oh my God.
Nobody knows that. It's always, the hidden history of the women. So I decided that I wanted to teach a course in Latin American women.
Okay.
So I invented a course.
Thank you.
And that allowed me to kind of start at the beginning. And I started with Maya goddesses. I mean, I really went all the way through because
Really?
it wasn't just the art of Latin American women as artists. It wasn't the artists of Latin America. It was the art of Latin American women. So it meant that I could go into the ancient world. I could talk about goddesses. I mean, in Mexico, that's really important. I could talk about Guadalupe and I could talk about the role, the administrative and professional role of women. So that's really how I was able to dive into the subject. And with that, start looking around Miami. I was also doing a lot of writing, as art historians did that. And I began to kind of create a portfolio of women that I had met that I realized had nobody to speak. No, they had no visibility. They had nobody to speak for them. So that is when I started writing and curating as well exhibits with the women, starting with FIU, and soon became the chief curator and director at the Frost Art Museum. So that was an open door.
So, Carl, you have been a pioneer for so many things. I call you a pillar at the beginning, but you're going to be a pioneer pillar. I mean, this is unbelievable. I'm talking about pioneers. I would love to know, how did you met WOPHA? How did you met WOPHA or Aldeide? Did they meet you? You meet them? How was that thing?
I think it was kind of mutual. I think that Aldeide and Francisco kind of found me around town because I'm very involved with so many of the Cuban artists. And it was kind of through that network that somebody must have said something to them or to me that here's a couple newly arrived that you should meet.
Okay.
And it's kind of like the rest is history. Aldeide and I became very fast friends very quickly.
Good.
And of course,
That happens with Aldeide.
Francisco was always there with
That
in the background, Francisco. But and I think that's really how it happened. And then when she came up with this project, and in the very early days, I thought, wow, here is somebody who can do something of value supporting women artists, specifically photographers. But my support is really not necessarily for a woman artist, but it's for the whole program, the visibility of everybody. Yeah, I mean, you and all the photographers that are working, that are behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Kind of behind the scenes, and to kind of what she was doing was bringing it to the forefront. So when I agreed to kind of act like, I don't know, a mentor or a sounding board, whatever you want to call it, for Aldeide, it was a lot of fun. And I am not a photography expert. I know a lot of history, and I did take Bill McGuire, the famous Bill McGuire's course at FIU, but that was very basic to what the history that I was trying to learn was about.
And you also mentioned in our pre-interview something very beautiful and very humble on your side. You mentioned that you have learned from Aldeide.
Oh, yes.
And
absolutely.
That was very touching during our conversation.
Because that's not a subject that is something that I really would cover. I might have 2 or 3 women photographers in my courses, but I'm not an expert academic on women photography or photography, period.
So can you tell me in a nutshell, why did you decide to support WOPHA? Because
I was fascinated with your project.
It's very important, your endorsement.
It was, for me, it's a two-way street. I benefit from this relationship. I mean, Francisco and Aldeide have become very good friends, and I benefit from what they do, what he does as an artist, what she is doing as an artist, but also, she's getting her degree. So she's a student. She's still a student, or maybe she's got the degree already, but she's been studying also. So that
she studies nonstop.
It's nonstop.
I think she studies
So
nonstop.
when I realized she was taking these courses online, she was doing all the work that she does with WOPHA, I thought, my gosh, this is a woman to pay attention to.
You kind of relate to her.
Yes.
She was doing what you did.
Absolutely.
Back then
she was
when you
doing
started.
photography.
So you understood what all of the work that it took for you, and then similarly all of the work that it took for her, or this taken for her, and then you decided to support.
Yeah.
Thank you so much on behalf of the whole WOPHA community. Thank you so much. For the person who is listening right now to this conversation, Carol, I would love for you to give a message. What would be that message for the person who's listening and might not know anything about art or not be involved in the arts? What would be your message?
Well, I think today the message of art is really important. It is a visual message. It is a cultural message. It is a quality of life message. I'm the chair of Miami-Dade Art in Public Places, so I'm very much aware of the impact that art outside in the community has to improve our quality of life.
That's right.
And so I think that the message really is to pay attention, to look around you, to walk into a gallery, walk into a museum. Don't be afraid. A lot of people are really intimidated.
Yes.
Yes, but not to be afraid to walk into a gallery and ask a question, because the people working in the gallery, they're there to answer questions. But I hear it all the time. Oh, can we go in there? Of course. You're going to go in there.
Tell me something.
No, really. Right. So I think it's opening the doors by opening your eyes.
That is beautifully said. Opening the doors by opening your eyes.
Right.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Carol, for coming and joining us today. We super appreciate your time and your generosity by giving us this beautiful background about Miami and this beautiful message to the audience.
Thank you. My pleasure.